someone to get
Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, May 7th. We're here for a work session, and before we start anything else, let's stand for the pledge. Councilwoman Merrifield, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have any announcements this morning from our council members?
No.
I do have one. We are going to have a forum on the downtown on May 19th.
That's what you said,
Yeah, May 19th at 6. We're doing it at 6 o'clock at Town Hall. So if you want to weigh in on what's going on downtown, come on down.
It'd be a great opportunity just for a wonderful update on all the progress that we've made, and we're ready to put shovels in the ground. So I think it's going to be a very good, positive program that we're going to see. Just give a chance to give full updates on everything from East End Arts, to the town square and so forth. So it's great.
And it starts here today with this project.
There is one thing I just want to mention. I met with the Disability Advisory Committee last night, and one of the things they're looking for, just for the public at large, if anybody is interested in any jobs, they're always seeking new employees, and it's a wonderful career to have. East End Disability Associates, everyone. Just check it out. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, with that said, we'll just go to our open session. Our very first item is with Ms. Wendy Weiss with the East End Arts Council. Wayne from DXA Studios, a matter surrounding lifting and relocation of the building of East End Arts Council with Councilman KERN and Ms. Thomas.
I'd like to introduce everyone to our board president, Frank Lentini. Frank has been an integral part of all of this since he so bravely took the seat of president. And he's been really instrumental in working with everything moving forward throughout this time in flux. So we're really lucky to have him. Thanks,
Thank you,
Frank.
Wendy. And nice to see some of you again, and nice to meet some of you for the first time. Just noting that I'm really excited today to walk through the presentation. I think the team has been working really diligently and collaboratively on a vision that we really think will advance both East End Arts and also downtown Riverhead. We're really excited to be able to show you what we have today.
If I could just set the table a little bit, the reason we are working on this project is because we knew we needed to move the buildings at East End Arts up and out of the floodplain so they do not wash away. And so when we thought about doing that, the idea became, where should they go? And the idea of having East End Arts really weigh in on that and decide what their future looks like became important. And so that's why we worked with East End Arts. We have a grant to cover the cost of this study that DXA did. East End Arts selected DXA, and the board agreed to that, and now we're here to show you what the layout could look like in the future. And so that's just so the public understands how we got here.
And just to expand on that, because the public always says, oh, they're building a new town square, they're redoing, and everything is going to flood out and drown under the work. The entire projects, everything that we're doing from the town square, East End Arts, the new hotel, everything is flood mitigation. It's all designed by the Army Corps of Engineers. So all the preparations, everything that we're doing is part of the whole process of flood mitigation. So that's why we're not just raising you to protect you. It's the whole landscape and everything. I think people are going to learn today that it is all a part of the entire flood mitigation project. So as we're going forward in the future, that we're all protected in everything that we do and our investment down there.
The preservation is appreciated.
Okay.
All right.
Well, my name is Wayne Norbert. I'm a partner at DXA Studio Architects, and we're thrilled to be part of this project. It's a very exciting opportunity for East End Arts and also, I think, for the town of Riverhead. And not only to think about how the buildings can be sort of solved from a technical point of view from the floodplain, but also in terms of envisioning how this opportunity lets us sort of create a whole new campus and plan for the future of the organization. So we'll walk you through today what we prepared. The first slide is simply showing the existing conditions and the current campus of East End Arts in the context of the town of Riverhead. And then this is a view of the current campus looking along Main Street to the Benjamin House and the Corwin House. Benjamin House is on the left, Corwin House is on the right. and that's the entrance to the East End Arts Campus, and a couple of photographs for context showing the different buildings. We have the Corwin House in the upper left, the Benjamin House in the upper center, and then the backs of those two buildings as you go down a pathway towards the water. And then also on the campus is this really great little barn, which I think presently is used for some storage for the town. And then there's the carriage house, which is part of the programming at East End Arts, and then also the schoolhouse, which is also on the property. Most of these buildings have been relocated at one time or another. The Corwin House and the Benjamin House are original structures that are important from a sort of preservation point of view to maintain frontage along Main Street, and that's going to be incorporated into the plan that we show you. So this next page is simply a site plan showing the existing condition as it is. What's important to note here are the elevations, the kind of heights of the topography. And so at the rear of the site, the south end of the site, we're down around 4.0 in terms of elevation. And up at Main Street, we kind of go between 13 and 12.6 on the edges of the site. And the goal is to get the site up to 13 or 13.5 in order to get to the proper elevation to avoid any kind of flood issue. This next page, on page 8, is showing the existing campus in the context of the new buildings that are under construction or underway in terms of the hotel to the west and also the new housing project to the east. And we just wanted to show this kind of in reference to the scale of the campus versus those projects and thinking about how the interaction of those buildings works with our project. This is a perspective view from Main Street showing what it will be like when those buildings are completed without doing any moving yet. And so we wanted to, in terms of planning, really think about how we mitigate between those existing structures and the new structures and create sort of a buffer and also an identity for East End Arts. The next page is now getting into the kind of strategy of how we want to deal with the kind of elevation changes on the site. And our thought was that instead of sort of bringing up the majority of the site or the whole site to that kind of goal of 13.5 in terms of elevation, that we would try to locate the raising of the topography up on the northern end of the site towards Main Street. And that gives us an opportunity for two things. One is to create a sort of campus for East End Arts on the northern side of the site. And then on the southern end of the site, it leaves it open as an opportunity for kind of an outdoor theater project, which has been proposed previously, and gives a lot of flexibility in terms of how that could be realized. And by doing this, the goal really is to mitigate the amount of soil that we need to bring onto site and to achieve that topography. So in the next image, where you start to get into, we're going to go through a series of slides here that shows how the buildings will be moved. So on the bottom left, what we're showing in shadow here is the Corwin House moving up. That's in part to accommodate an access road that is next to the hotel. But we also need to maintain the kind of street frontage of the Corwin House along Main Street for kind of historic preservation purposes. The Benjamin House will stay in pretty much its exact position and plan, but it'll simply move up to the 13.5 level. And then what we're showing here is the carriage house, which has a specific programmatic relationship to the Benjamin House, will move up and over and kind of flip around. And then we're also moving the schoolhouse up in front of the dotted line, and then the barn, which we envision as being part of a little bit more part of the visual arts programming at East End Arts, would be closer to the Corwin House, so we can create that kind of relationship. So the carriage house and the barn sort of flip around and move into these new positions. All of the structures will be, of course, at this 13.5 elevation for flood purposes. So page 13, this is showing the campus as we imagine it. The goal really here is to continue to have this open space in between the Corwin House and the Benjamin House, which is the current sort of framing of the site. and we want to maintain that, and that's very important. But then to think of almost like a quad in almost like a college campus kind of situation where we end up with a central space which can be used as a plaza or a gathering space, kind of outdoor programming, and that really becomes the kind of hub of the campus. And so the way that the buildings are being positioned, we have the carriage house directly across from the barns. That's creating a kind of axial relationship. But what we're also trying to do here is leave enough room in between the buildings so that we can accommodate a future vision, and we're going to give you a little bit of a teaser of that as part of this, even though that would be a future phase of the project. And then also just wanted to explain that we imagine that the kind of difference in topography to be handled with a tiered landscape and potentially a future building, which we'd like to raise money for and propose for the campus. And those moves would help sort of mitigate the topographic condition. And we've included an image here which kind of shows some precedents of what that would be like, where we include some paving as a way of stepping down, but also really integrating the landscape so that we keep this kind of campus or park-like atmosphere that already exists on the site. So what we wanted to show you here was just a bit of a teaser of how we could imagine the campus then evolving. And so and to show how the movement of these pieces is very important in creating some very critical relationships for how East End Arts would then develop. So this is a view from Main Street showing a new building that we imagine, which would be sort of an open pavilion. I mean, it's enclosed, but it has a very open field that would help frame views back towards the water from Main Street. And this would become a sort of iconic, really, we think of this as kind of a destination, both for East End Arts and also for the town of Riverhead, but also solving some really critical programmatic issues in terms of providing more exhibition space and more support space, ultimately, for East End Arts. And then also really becoming a way of dealing with the topographic change on the site. So that you could allow the topography to spill down on both sides of that building and then go down to what we see as the open end where you could program a kind of outdoor theater space that could be done in a very flexible configuration. Also, what we're anticipating that we'd love to be able to do is to connect the Benjamin House to the carriage house, and to do that by adding an elevator and an egress stair in a smaller version of that same pavilion, which would allow us to have accessible access to the second floor of both of those buildings because they're both used for program now.
There's no accessibility at the moment.
Right. So that gives us a lot of flexibility in how the institution can evolve.
Can I just ask a question? What is the larger building in the background? What is that?
That larger building in the background is the housing building that's presently under
That's the
construction.
angle, that's the side?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Yeah, and then the next page, this is sort of an initial thought of a future concept in terms of how the campus could evolve. By setting things up with that central plaza, we're able to envision the kind of event building that we showed 2 slides ago, and then the connector building. There's also an opportunity that if it would be in the cards to expand the Corwin House towards the south, we could do that. And then also take advantage of the new sort of access road that's between the hotel and the site so that we could use that for service into the new building and into the center of the campus. And then, of course, what we'd really like to do is also have kind of a landscape buffer on both sides that creates a bit of separation between the hotel and the multifamily building and gives the campus its own sort of identity and also some privacy to those other buildings as well. But we like this configuration in that it provides a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of potential for the future. It leaves the whole southern end of the site completely open, that we can envision the kind of theatrical space that in either it's the kind of amphitheater or a more flat configuration that can be used in a lot of different ways, and maybe potentially future bathrooms and so forth down at that end of the site. So that creates a lot of flexibility. and at the same time leaves open the opportunity that we can really create this kind of destination for East End arts and also for the town. So.
I'm going to tell you that I love this. I'm going to tell you why. One, with the quality of the art that's going in there, these buildings match that quality. It's very difficult in the older buildings with low ceilings to really appreciate a lot of the art that's there. I love the idea of the flexible space. The one thing that I'm hoping that we will, not you guys per se, but the board will consider is, given the proximity of the building to the east, putting an amphitheater there is going to be a nightmare because this apartment is right there, is on the west side of that space, southwest, that there'd be a stage at some point that can program to the east as well, and then have the speakers facing west so the sound's not hitting the building.
Yeah.
And that would allow us to also use that stage to program to the west to the lower town square. So, it would work both ways, which that's,
Yeah.
we've yet to have a sound engineer involved in all this, which
Right.
I think is important. And Dawn and I have spoken about this, and that person will be engaged because there's ways of doing this. But I got to say that I'm really impressed with the work.
Thank you.
It's really great.
To speak a little bit to the point about the stage location, one of our thoughts was if we leave that essentially flat, it gives so much flexibility. We can have the stage in a number of different configurations. Wendy had a great idea, which was there's these temporary stage companies that you can set it up, you can move it, you can have different types of events. You could imagine like a wedding or a theatrical event, things where like a flat condition would be a lot more flexible in terms of how you use the space.
You also have, you probably have seen this, where they have LED screens that are basically packed up, right? And then what happens is they're on a track, so they can go, they come out, right? So they're able to flex either way. And, excuse me, the more flexibility, because all the technology is there that we use, the better it's going to be, for anybody coming in to do programming or whatever.
And we even thought the new building for like a future phase, that the back of that building, what's interesting is you have two fronts essentially. You don't have a back for the building. You have a front which is people arriving from the parking, and then you also have a front from Main Street. So if there's an event that's specific to East End Arts, for example, they can use that. People can be up on a higher platform, fundraising, that kind of thing, and have a gathering below, or actually obtain the view to the water by having an elevated position there.
I guess my only, and this is not a criticism, I guess you're gonna have to figure out a way on that back building, if you have art in there, how you're gonna shut off the light from affecting how you're lighting the art. That's, but I think that's the easy fix.
Yeah, I think there'll be like a whole shading strategy that we'll have to do and make sure that we can mitigate and have the proper conditions for it.
Well done, that's all I can say. This is like plugged in.
Great, thank you.
This protects our assets and what people want in our town by lifting this, so thank you. This is great, and the future plans look awesome, and we want to make sure that happens. So it's good stuff.
Excellent.
So there's actually two. There's the beautiful, I guess the iconic point that you're going to look at that building. There's a similar building that's going to go in between the two existing buildings, right? A smaller version of that? That's terrific. I was just trying to figure that
And
out.
that small building in between will have an elevator.
Right.
So it allows access to both the buildings in one space and not having to double up on elevators.
And I only had a question about the all the steps, these beautiful steps here. These are the steps that'll be those other renderings that with all the garden work around it, right?
Yeah, so that it'll be similar in character to this kind of image from page 14.
Yes. They're not the amphitheater seating or anything like that.
That's correct, but we also thought of it that it could be kind of informal classrooms for East End Arts, that you can have like a smaller sort of like a summer classroom kind of outdoor situation there. So we kind of think of those outdoor spaces as trying to create as many different scales of rooms that we can on the campus, and then you have all that flexibility.
And the new arts building, the potential large art building, how much space does that leave then for the seating for the amphitheater? Because they're estimating, 300 to 800 seats?
That was the market study thought as to what would be,
Yes.
a good sweet spot.
Does this building, positioned this far back, allow for that spacing still?
Yeah, it does. If we had a plan that overlaid some of the original amphitheater concepts, it's actually bigger than what the space was that was allotted for that.
I also think the fact that that space would be flexible would give everyone an opportunity to see what might come. So if there were bigger events, or you wanted to have one very large event, you'd have that square footage to do that, but you could also cordon it off into more intimate, and really give the flexibility before we put anything, permanent in there, and that temporary use to just really in real time understand. We have a market study which had a number, but times change, things change. It's a couple of years old now, so over the long haul, I think this is a really great way to get the buildings protected up front, and then manage to have that space on the lower end as riverfront space, really, and there would be no buildings there if it floods, it's floodable. And that works. So.
And I always look at it this way, right? The way you've done the south side, it's an unpainted palette. So it gives you the ability to paint it all kinds of ways for years to come. Once you decide what it's going to be, the palette's over, and you start to lose that flexibility.
Yeah.
And especially when we're dealing with, talking about art and performances and blah, 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 I think you want that flexibility. Otherwise, if you close it off, you're done.
I love the art building because I just have this vision of the amphitheater is going from the renderings, and you'd be right behind it, down in the distance. And I would love to see the amphitheater follow the same open air look.
Yeah.
The way this is all open, so we've seen different renderings, some not so great, but for the amphitheater. But something along these lines would match it, and this whole thing is a beautiful oasis in between all the large buildings all around the area. It's absolutely beautiful.
So a few things in terms of going over the site plan overall. This is all, of course, preliminary, but we want to just keep in mind, I love the way the steps look and everything, but we got to keep it ADA compliant, so we're going to have to find,
absolutely.
ways, not just for wheelchairs, but also families, strollers, and other things that can make their way down. I would like to, I know this is just conceptual, but with the tree and everything in here, I do want to find in whether it be the town square, East End Arts, we do need a large tent location, whether it's even your own fundraiser. We don't want you going to Mattatuck anymore, we want you to stay here. So we just, in terms of layout, this could be the ideal with, if there is, crafts fairs and things like that, where I think the town in the long run, I would be looking to purchase like a structure that we could put up sometimes in the springtime throughout the summer and hold many different, whether it be crafts fairs, country fairs, or just events, farmers markets, days, whatever it may be. So we just want to be conscientious of a positioning to have a large structure, because we do need that protected space, so rain or shine events can happen downtown. And so just when you're thinking of that, whether it runs from east and west, because this building's that might give some conceptual thinking ideas in advance where, in fact, the stage is going to be. So it doesn't mean that if you're having a concert, it doesn't mean the tent has to be up, but I think the town should own something that should be flexible and movable to dismantle things, whatever it may be, as you plan the summer. So just thinking with the stage, whether the stage is here or not, but just kind of think of a large flat area that, should we want to have, large events there with a tent structure. So as much as we're doing all this landscaping work, we do need, I think we need a formal gathering space downtown that's protected. And I think that would be an ideal location. So I just want you to kind of think about that when you're doing some site plans and work on it.
So the next steps will be, unless somebody's got, so next steps would be, if this board is happy with this layout, then we would use the grant funding to do a small request for proposals from a construction engineer to design the move of those buildings. And then we would be ready to really do that. And so we're getting very close.
How long, I mean, how quickly can we do that?
I have to talk to Anne-Marie about that. She's the RFP guru.
Because it'd be nice if there's, how many companies are out there that actually do this, right?
Yeah.
Which is very minimal. So if we could identify those companies and just put it out for a month RFP.
I think it would be a short window, and
Yeah,
it's really
okay.
for the engineering piece, the construction drawings,
Right.
and then the bid would be to hire, to build, which would be probably a moving company that does the moving. They have to, follow the plans, lift the buildings up, support them, bring the fill in, and then the rest of it has to happen from there.
I would think that having a short RFP time would be a no-brainer, because I think that companies that actually do this are already on the radar waiting to see when that comes out.
Yeah,
Agreed.
exactly.
Yep. Just one, I know this is conceptual, okay?
Yeah.
Because I just think about some of the big pieces of art that were like down on West Main Street, right? Okay, the height of of the walls on the second floor, what are they?
Yeah, I mean, those are
Kind
probably, at the low point, they're probably like 12 feet or so. But it's a good point that you bring up. There's a lot of flexibility in how that pavilion could be done. And having a full second floor, it might be interesting to have a totally open area where you could have like a larger piece, for example, and have people be able to see it from multiple vantage points from up above and below. So, yeah, the configuration of the floors within the building, I think that's something that we really want to explore.
Right.
Sort of understanding the phasing of how this project has to happen. We didn't really get into the weeds too much with those sorts of details in
understand.
operations, but I think what DXA was really great about and thoughtful in is looking at our general operations with our existing buildings and how we can configure them in a way to make that an improved experience, So as wonderful as it is having that large campus with all those buildings, sometimes it was a challenge operationally to be managing them, at such a distance. So these kinds of things, and I especially love the accessibility building. I think that really opens up a lot, and it's a very smart way to have one elevator to access two buildings and bridge the educational programs that way as well, and to revitalize, the barn into something, because it's an attraction that everybody loves. Everybody just loves that barn. It's a cool little building, right? So to do something really wonderful with that. And then in the long-term planning, for it to be something that holds its own strength, like it has a charm to it for sure, but that charm is not something that becomes negative, that it's become something that is strong and charming at the same time as the revitalization is going. It brings that modernity into the existing historical buildings and landscape and things like that. So, but knowing it's like one phase at a time.
But I do appreciate the question, because I think, what we are both going for is we want something that is certainly iconic, that brings people down, that's not only just architecture, but also art. So, I think that's certainly one of the considerations we'll be thinking through as we think through phase two, because we do want something that is, noticeable, and that brings people in. I wouldn't say no to having, a Julie Norretu-esque giant piece that we'd be able to hang appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, architecturally, I think, just knowing some of the galleries out on the East End and seeing quite a few in Manhattan and elsewhere, this is really a great architectural work. And I mean, this is like I shouldn't say this publicly. The Parish Museum, I think, this is much better, architecturally, hands down, I think.
Too, this study helps us look for funding for those types of
Yeah.
projects. So now we have the plan, we know what we're doing, then we can submit and people can see for themselves what that looks like.
The multiple angle future gallery is amazing. That's what the church is in Sag Harbor. There's a place in Port Jeff that does the same thing. You're able to view the art from different angles, above and below. So it's definitely a huge attribute to our town and continues to draw artists. So good job.
Some of the
The
best stuff I've
7-foot
seen.
level area, is that now we out of the flood zone with 7 feet?
It'll be floodable, same as the playground. So that's the same elevation as the playground now. It's around 4, I think. So it comes up a little bit, and it's designed to be floodable.
Okay.
So we don't have to have it built all the way up and build a big wall in the back. That's the goal, sort of step it up to Main Street.
Okay.
And so that's how it'll be.
Yeah, and it may not be clear from this, but the intent with the new building is that the first floor of that building continues to be at the 13.6 level, and so it sort of hovers above the space a bit, so that it's still out of the floodplain.
So if it floods, you can
Matching up now, I'm sorry, how is it matching up now? Because we want to see East End Arts, the hotel project, Town Square, everything coinciding with each other like it's one master plan, which it is. But, so how are we relating? How is the transfer going, walkability from here to the Town Square?
So that the back edge, so what will be a sidewalk along the sort of parking face there, that elevation completely matches up. And then, we stay down. What happens is there's these access roads, and they do kind of have their own elevations, so there's a bit of a retaining wall that comes out. So that's where we're going to need this kind of landscape buffer. But when we get up to the center portion of the campus, then that's where the access road between the hotel and our site, we can use that for service. I think the multifamily thing is kind of on its own. But the Main Street side obviously totally syncs up, and it is better than it is now because it's going to be raised and it has that kind of strange condition where you come down. The back will be completely in sync with the kind of wayfinding in the back.
So just when you get into that final site plan, I just think the walkways and everything, so if you're designing them, they should be put into a configuration again for a large tending area, gathering space, that we're not tearing anything up, and I'd like to see the walkways coming right in, right through the roadway, crosswalk, that it's all blending together.
Yep.
So, because that's what we want people to go down the Town Square, go to the restaurants, go to the market, and then make their way east, and then I just want to make sure that there's nice pathways and everything is working together.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that a little bit too when we were first talking about this, because right now it's people aren't sure, like, can I go here? Do I not go here? What's happening? It's like, is this private? Is it not? Am I invited? And this helps it to be something that if we ever needed to cordon off for a camp or something like that, we could. But this is really about inviting people to circulate, through the downtown, Town Square area.
Part of this whole integration from the lower Town Square portion blending into.
You want to speak on that?
Yeah, I think so. You're working with LBF's landscaping drawings, and so the concern I have is how are we going to separate that access road? Or make that look a little better? Because that's just going to be, I don't know what that's going to be. It could be pavers, it could be anything right now, so we need to think how we're going to make that look decent. Is there going to be a berm? Is there going to be a separation from the access road? You have a landscape buffer.
Yeah.
I almost wish it was pavers the same style of pavers that you're using in the Town Square, all the walking area, so it all kind of blends together. It almost would have, to me, it just would look more of a colonial setting as well by doing that, and those houses fit that type of style setting.
We certainly need,
Just pouring asphalt on it, it's just going to take
Right.
away from the whole aesthetics of it.
and we certainly need a little bit of an access for art deliveries and the like, so we would like to take advantage of having that there for that.
Which is it? Is it the Corwin building that's the low one?
That's the yes.
So the Corwin building, are you using the whole building? Because there's a lot of parts to that on stilts.
Yeah.
Is the intent to salvage that whole building, or, because there's the main house that was originally built, then there's an addition, and then there's all pieces that they added.
Yeah. Our intent was to move everything.
Does that make sense, though, when it doesn't even look like it's usable, some of those spaces?
The gallery space extends pretty much to the back of the building
Pretty
now.
much every inch of any available space, if not for exhibition, then certainly for storage and other operations.
Those porches are 4x4s.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing that will happen here is that when we raise the site up and we provide accessibility, which essentially will be level coming in. The porches then will become almost like terrace conditions, where they're more flush to the ground. So we're going to have to work with how we address paving in those situations. The same condition exists in the back of the Benjamin House right now.
Also, so that east retaining wall now, the Heatherwood project has, I think that something needs to be done to that.
Yeah. So a lot of that will get hidden because when we bring the front portion of the site up to 13.5, that'll appear much lower. But the back end, yeah, we're going to need like a serious landscape approach on I think both sides to make sure that that's mitigated, because right now it's just a concrete wall.
Ultimately, like a bathroom probably needs to go, and that's probably not a bad spot for it, for events, something, unless we're going to do temporary, and then that's fine, but, so that big wall may be a good spot for that.
What are you referring to? In the
So the big wall that's between Heatherwood now and Eastern Arts, is like a retaining wall there, and it's, when they fill up the top, you're not going to see it, but in the back, you're still going to see that wall, and so I think we're talking about how we manage the look of that.
There'll be a similar wall on the hotel side, and that's where we're hiding dumpsters and containers, right in that spot right there, so we have to really...
There has to be like a visual separation there.
The future building is going to have the mechanicals coordinated for the future of that? In this,
Yeah, I think what will most likely happen is to the west of that building, there may be a kind of service area that we incorporate in, and we're still working through some of the programmatic things that are going to be happening there. We have to accommodate a stair, potentially another lift in that location. But yeah, we need a zone for mechanical, and that makes perfect sense because you're right along the access road, so you can get service up in there.
always the concern for us is another phase, and we're ripping up a lot of stuff that we did already. That if we can coordinate that in these early rounds, it'd be a lot beneficial down the road.
Definitely.
Kind of like next to that schoolhouse, there should be water, electric, or future things that are going to be needed to maybe expand here to the center.
So there are only two buildings that are landmarked, designated here?
I think they're all historically protected except
I don't think so.
the writing.
I thought it was just the Corwin House and that's historic.
This is fairly new. That's like
The barn isn't, I know that isn't. With the John Deere guy on the back, that's not.
the ones that are along the street obviously are within the historic district and also on the National Register. So the entirety of East Main Street's on the National Register for the street wall. Though some are contributing assets, some are not, but these two buildings are obviously contributing assets to that designation. So those, but SHPO, we've already sort of had preliminary conversations. We're not doing anything drastic. We're maintaining the street wall. So the barn was moved there. It's really about location. We're not, eliminating anything. We're just sort of shifting things around to get them out of the floodplain. So in the end, I don't think there's any issues there. But
So even as all the buildings that are there now, you're going to reuse.
yes.
I would just say, to speak to your concern, we're also not, I think we also acknowledge that there's also more work to do on the existing buildings that we have as we look to continue to mature the site for our own use as well. And we were just talking about that earlier. So it's not that, I would say that the buildings move or the end of the process. I think that's the beginning of the process, and that we'll continue to, look for ways to continue to modernize the campus, including, to your point, addressing some of those structural elements, because I can appreciate the desire to make sure that with the new buildings going up, that our campus is also modernized to reflect and just make a more cohesive site, which I think is what everyone wants.
Just have a question then, speaking as to the historical preservation, I guess, which house is this that's going to connect to that smaller new building? This one?
Benjamin House is the left.
Are you going to be allowed to cut into that wall and
Yeah,
allow access? I love this building. I
Yeah,
think it's
we'll work with SHPO on that, but typically, as long as the sort of connection does not overwhelm the historic structure, and we're very selective about where we go in, like we'll probably try to get in at an existing window opening, for example.
There is one right
And
there.
landmarks takes the position too, if you don't see it from the street.
Right.
Okay, good. You won't see it.
Correct.
So, yeah, but we'll be very sensitive, and we'll work with the, historic
And Richard
preservation.
Wines, did you meet Richard yet?
Richard,
Once, I think you did, or
Yeah.
Jordan did, I think.
The little conversations I had with him, he dug in his heels, he wants that whole house. Why, Richard, it's not, you don't see it from the street. Sounds like he wants the whole house.
I just have one question. On page 16, I truly love this building. I think, I don't know how you're going to be able to walk on the street and not get drawn right into this campus. But is there access, handicap access to the second floor? Because it's
Yeah.
not shown in this rendering.
so off to the right, there's a bit of a sort of core that has an elevator and a stair that's part of that.
Oh, okay. Is it that wooded area that's kind of blurry? Okay, great.
But I think that what you're saying is that that's just conceptual at this point.
Right, not to get drawn in by it.
Right.
But the goal of it is to make sure that we leave the spaces needed for these things
Down the
down the
road.
road, yeah.
Yep.
And so that we don't look back and say, oh, we should have done X or we should have done Y, and we didn't really, we just moved them here and there. And it's a mindful process about relocating them.
Just so you know too, we are not in the hurricane zone, so that glass doesn't need to be.
Okay, yeah, that's good for cost.
So it's a good thing.
Appreciate the cost savings.
First VE we did.
I think that this campus is going to be beautiful, and I think that it's something that downtown has always needed, and something that the East End Arts is going to be so proud of when this is complete, and is going to bring new life to these buildings, to the campus, and people are going to be drawn to this from all over, and you guys should be so proud to be a part of it right now.
Now, I'm going to ask you to address the public, if you will, because I have gotten, the naysayers have said that we are kicking East End Arts out of the town square, we're not being fair to them, it's not kind, and they've been there, and we need them to keep them. You're excited about this whole program and the whole future, and so this is why we're doing that. And so it's a temporary move, over to the annex building, but there's great things to come, all right? And so if you don't mind just speaking about it, because that's a lot of people say to us, what are you doing to East End Arts? Why are you kicking them out? Why are they, they're no longer there? Because you're having programming that's saying like, this is it before we move, and like some people are seeing that something is ending here, but I want them to see it as a new beginning. So if you don't mind, just, we excited?
What I can say is I do appreciate the enthusiasm our supporters have for the organization. I think it points to the fact that they do value the role of arts in Riverhead and in their lives, and I think we're committed to keeping that. But at the same time, I think we're also showing, certainly here today, that we have a collaborative approach with the town that will really allow us to not only return to the space, but also return in a stronger way and build towards an even more resilient arts organization, both for East End Arts and also the role that arts plays in downtown Riverhead. So I would hope that those people who continue to support us do so, but also, join us as we kind of prepare for that next phase.
And you've been a part of this process since day one, right?
Yes, sir.
The day I became executive director, yes. Whether I knew it or not, that's just jumped right in with both feet, yes.
You're not spending the rest of your life in the annex. We're
Which is a
building
great
something
building, and we're very
incredible here.
grateful to be there. It was, if we could have asked to move, and it was the perfect spot to move into, and we're thriving there, and that's all that, anyone could ask for. And we're most appreciative to be working so closely with Dawn and her team, and with you and with DXA to be part of the process of all of this and be part of this exciting time of revitalization, I've got a long history here. I went to Mercy High School, I know what this place has been, and I also see what it can be, and I think it should be that. So, maybe it was the stars aligning that I'm the right person in the right seat at the right time, but it couldn't be without the collaboration, and that truly has been, always been. And it's about the preservation the preservation of the historical buildings, the preservation of arts and culture here in downtown. You know, this is, since I got here, I've been calling it the Arts District of the East End because I believe it can be that, and this is all moving closer to that direction. And we're rowing in the same direction, which I think is pretty incredible.
I think it's phenomenal. Culture and the arts are alive in Riverhead, between the Suffolk Theater, between the East End Arts, between the Jazz Loft taking over the Vale Levitt, and the amphitheater that's coming. I leave, and obviously your campus, it's a thriving area for the arts. It's going to draw a tremendous amount of tourism, all the arts to this town. Thank you.
We're working really hard in the meantime so that we're not just waiting for this to happen, you know. So construction begins tomorrow on the build out at our temporary gallery space at 48 West Main. And thank you to Councilman KERN, Councilman Rothwell, and mostly to Dawn and her team, because that was a lot to do. But that's, you know, so we'll be opening that up with our Detour exhibition, our signature summer exhibition on June 13th. And, you know, and it's right across the street from the 11 West Gallery at Peconic Crossing that we've been operating. So we want to keep things going. We're not just sitting idly. We want to keep it moving and shaking. And, you know, that's why I'm on the Business Improvement District Board as well, because it all has to breathe together.
Just want the public to know that you haven't moved, you're under construction.
That's right. Until we meet again.
We have the Mosaic Art Festival coming.
We have the Mosaic Festival on, you know, May 31st, which will be here on the Town Hall campus, which will be another great change for a little while until we get back into this new, you know, Main Street and Town Square area. You know, these things are all good things, you know, and I think that I personally, and maybe that's a good thing, I like change. I think change is good. I think it's necessary, and, you know, and it's exciting to be a part of it all.
Sounds like a song.
Pull out the guitar, Bob. Pull out the guitar, Bob.
Are you going to play at the gallery opening? We have a show all about music, Bob. It's all about music.
He's better than he's
But
put
I
himself
think-
onto. I've heard him play.
When people
He recorded
see
with us.
this, I mean, look, there's no question that this is a game changer. This is a great start to downtown, because this is the best thing I've seen so far coming into downtown, by far. Except
thanks to
till we
DXA.
see that hotel built. People are going to stay in the hotel, the artists are going to stay there, because you are attracting. I mean, I have a little bit experience with art and the city and stuff like that, and you know, what I've seen over the last few years is like night and day. What's going on in that gallery? It's serious. It's good stuff, and I keep saying it here publicly, and people need to come and see what's going on down there. For me to want to buy a piece of art is very, very rare. I'm really bad at, like, I'm very particular.
I think also, it might have been you or one of your colleagues mentioned at one of the last events I attended to about being able to bring in and to display, and forgive me if I don't want to insult an artist, but more valuable work that's protected because the flood zone areas are dangerous in terms of like the storing of art and what could happen, and are you concerned about things or shows, you know, if there's a rainstorm coming or things moving, you have to move things out. Knowing that you're protected allows you to do those more permanent displays of high valued art, and all art is valued, but just so that you know that everything that you're displaying is long-term, is protected, whether even if things like I'm quite familiar with the Parish Art Museum, we used to go in, and so in the fire department, they had like the vault area of all the things that they could put out, and everything had to be, you know, so protected and preserved for when it came out for display, and sometimes when it was put in protected. And there's quite a collection of just people within the Hamptons area and so forth that had personal art that was held, you know, by the museum and protected, you know, and that was loaned to them, for, so to speak, to be on display at different times and so forth. And you'd have the ability to do that. No one would have concerns about, you know, the safety of the buildings and the grounds, if that makes sense.
The flexibility it gives us from an exhibitional standpoint is fantastic, because I do think that, to your point, you know, the concerns with bringing in, you know, I would say, more reputable artists with, or that's the wrong term, artists whose work has a high value that requires insurance and certain, requirements. These facilities allow us to be able to do that more than we have in the past.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm going to. So all art is valuable, but it's just, there are certain things that I know that do, just what you say, come with insurance requirements and stipulations and climate controlled setting and everything else. And so the restoration of all these allows you to go that route.
That's right.
And this guy has a good eye for art. If you go in the Preston House and you go in the rooms, he's got a very good eye for art. The art in there is fantastic.
You may have to come on as a guest curator.
Yeah, you have to go check it out.
Thank you for coming up and helping us to marry that together. The two sites, we want to do that. We want it to all flow together and make it flow. So
I think that separation, the access road, and we need to do something that we can see through. It needs to be more open, part of it, part of the whole thing.
stuff.
It's just good to see professionals, working, because you guys, I know, worked with you, done some work with your company, and it's a no-brainer.
Well, thank you all for coming in. And
You got more slides you want to walk us through? I think we still got.
The information in the back is that's just an appendix of some things that went into the design thinking. I don't think we need to.
Inspiration.
Process are just these.
Cartoons,
How anybody's going to be able to walk by this. And then-
yeah, that's incredible. Right?
take a commercial break.
Commercial
So
break.
are we okay to start working on RFP?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, excellent, really, great.
That's why I asked today.
Thank you so much, each and
Very
every one.
exciting. Thank you very much. Very exciting.
Outstanding stuff.
Wendy's gonna put our eyeglass collection in one day.
I always look forward to seeing what Wendy's going to wear.
I want a photograph,
I could never, put together the things that you put together and then go,
Screens and a top, Joanne.
love
All
it.
the projects have to blend, you know what I mean? The pathways.
That pathway and pavers looks very close to
Just,
it.
just top, but then you put the belts together.
I'm gonna photograph Wendy one day with all the
I'm wearing my other hat.
Runs away.
because she's got,
He has quite the collection.
So our next session, matter on open work session is matter surrounding, give them a second. Let's give them a second. Matter surrounding changes to the CRC or the commercial and residential campus zoning with Councilman KERN, Councilman Rothwell, and Councilwoman WASKI.
and we need somebody from planning.
Well, Matt is walking in. Mr. Charters is walking in right now. Mr. Charters, I believe they've asked for you to.
Is Greg here for this one? Can you? Yeah, can you do it?
Both of you come up. Come on
Yeah, come on.
I think he's in IT, but he's on
Oh, come on. You're familiar with this, Matt.
Oversight. Yeah.
Okay.
You're familiar with this.
I haven't seen the code, so what's the proposed change, or what do we?
So we should probably call Greg down, he's been, as well. So this is the property, just so you know, this is the property that's directly across from the Dairyland on 58. And we need Greg here with a map.
So that property, if you're talking about a specific property or the whole zone, so that side of the road is CRC, both sides of the road are CRC,
Yeah.
between East Main Street and 105. I haven't seen a draft, so I'm not sure what the change is.
So
Yeah, so I don't,
Kevin just went to get Greg.
to get Greg. I can say that is an office zone. It's more of a transitional zone, office and residential. There are a number of permitted uses. The intent of that zone, I can read it right to you from
let me get the change. Oh, Greg's coming down, maybe he has, make sure he brings the change with him.
Well,
Okay,
he's already on his way.
that's okay. If he has to go back and get it, that's
This is
all right.
locations for offices and professional offices which offer essential legal, medical, accounting, real estate, travel, and other services in Riverhead to Riverhead residents, and to provide additional housing alternatives, convenient services, and convenient to services and arterial. So less intense offices and things like that. Permitted uses are offices, banks, restaurants, funeral homes, single-family residence, two-family residence with TDR, townhouses, garden apartments, radio and television broadcast studios. We don't really see too many of those in town, but it is a permitted use. Schools, museums, and art galleries, meeting rooms for fraternal organizations, places of worship, parks and playgrounds, and indoor sports and recreation facilities. There are also some accessory uses, which are home occupations and drive-through windows for banks and pharmacies. So I don't know what the town board is exactly looking to do, maybe.
Do you have what the proposed code was?
No, this code was not generated by the office.
No, I know, no, I'm not saying it was. Let me see. I may have to run up and get it.
My question is that, are we talking about an overall area, or are we talking about a single parcel? So we want to make sure that we're not
That's my
spot
question as well.
It's the overall area.
I believe it's,
upgrade of the area, then we want to talk about the overall effect.
Step in your step.
Yeah, I think we need to know the specifics of the change, because obviously you've heard from us both that we're not really too sure what it is. And then once we know what it is, we can probably give you a better opinion whether it would be considered spot zoning or not.
So obviously, we have to avoid spot zoning and protect ourselves.
Yeah, we can't do
I haven't seen any legislation, so I haven't seen anything that's been proposed with this yet. So,
Thank you.
So do we want to wait on Bob to come back with it? You guys are, or do you want to?
how many days to St. Patrick's Day?
Don't forget Sunday, what's Sunday?
Mother's Day.
Where are you going? On the 4th.
Yeah,
the fourth before the
and you just, there was something else. Oh, the Eastern Arts Mosaic. You just brought that up. That's right, the end of May. That's coming up. Yeah, absolutely.
The Cap March is on June 5th at 9 a.m. at Pulaski Street School.
He's bailing us out. I love it. I love it. And Mother's Day.
Don't forget Mother's Day.
We have two moms right here that are absolutely fantastic and need to be honored. So
Moms are the best.
call your mom. All of that wonderful stuff. So good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Great that you guys are here.
Very, very rare you get the two of us here
Two for
at
the price
once.
of one.
Yeah.
It is.
Is enjoyable.
But it is there. Yeah, also, there's RBAC is having their open house on May 17th, fundraiser from 11 to 4 p.m. That's also coming up Sunday, May 17th.
Big event on the east end of Long Island, we'll keep chatting, is on the same day on Sunday the 17th. The Red Knights have their annual bike blessing, so the motorcycle enthusiasts from all over Long Island come out and take off from North Sea and Southampton all the way out to Montauk. And the road is shut down. It's the only time you're going to ride nonstop from Southampton all the way to Montauk. And all the way back.
And we have the
Those
fourth.
motorcycles tuned up, ready to go.
We have the fourth before the fourth coming up in Grangeville Park, which the Chamber of Commerce is doing. So a lot of good stuff.
This gives us, Craig, just check that, I think that.
Okay. Obviously, first glance for both of us.
No, just the, how's it going on the map? I'm getting copies of what,
Well, so let me see the draft of the
I'm getting that, it's not on there, it's not there. I'm getting copies made right now.
Okay, so that is sort of, oh, it's right here. So retail stores are shops and trade shops on properties with frontage along either side of New York State Route 25 between Doctor's Path and County Route 105 and their logical extension. So that's a pretty narrow area. As we know, retail or special trade contractors are not, or building and trade shops are not permitted uses in this zone now. I kind of spoke to the purpose intent of the code already, so it's supposed to be a more traditional, less intense zone. My concern is in this immediate area, not even from a trip generation perspective, but just from an overall like traffic and movement. It's somewhat of a bottleneck, as everyone is familiar. End of the day, beginning of the day, it sort of backs up in both directions, so it'd be a challenge to get in and out of there. And then some of these uses are a little bit more impactful or not impactful to neighbors, so there's not too much vacancy in this area. I know there's a vacancy here, and then this is a whole large piece that goes back that's partially zoned CRC. But we just want to make sure that these uses are, spoken to and in conformance with any recommendations of the comp plan. So the comp plan update in 2024 did speak to some possible amendments to CRC. These uses weren't included in those recommendations, so it talks about adding additional residential opportunities such as increasing density, and maybe I think it's pretty much.
I mean, the comp plan really spoke to more increasing residential densities, not necessarily adding different commercial uses within the zoning district.
So my
Question
concern,
becomes, who wants to live on that main road, number one?
people do already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that, but people have lived, when you look at the age of those houses, that's prior to any large traffic. But you talk about traffic, and then you talk about the ice cream place right across the street. We're talking about, the uses that we're talking about are not gonna have anywhere near the kind of traffic the ice cream shop is generating.
Yeah, well,
And,
this is-
you know, and the comp plan is not God. The comp plan is made up of people like ourselves that were on the committee and need to make recommendations, right? So, and that's the perspective where I'm coming from here in this zone, because you've got 60 parking spaces across the street in a storage place, right? And, you know, I drive that every day, and you might also, Matt, I don't know, but that area is not, you know, where the ice cream is, I mean, that's,
So
it's packed all the time, and it's not a bad place to drive
So
by.
there's 3 residential uses here. These are residential. Obviously, these are residential houses here.
Can we put that up so everybody can see?
Absolutely.
Has this gone through code revision?
No.
We are code revision. Any board members that work on something is code revision.
I understand, but I just, you know, we
Yeah,
do have a committee.
and that's why, you know, not to have a little back and forth, but that's why I made the distinction about, not necessarily about trips, but types of uses. So if it's going to be a special trade contractor, there might be more impacts that aren't just, you know, trip related, but trucks, outdoor storage, noise, odors, light, stuff like that. It's a little bit more intense than, say, an office or a dentist or even a medical office that's generally open when you're at work and closes when you get home. We just have to be very, very careful in terms of the spot zoning issue, whether, you know, this is spot zoning or not. We have to take a hard look at that, you know, because it has to be sort of marching along with the recommendations of the comp plan and not to benefit any one person. There's got to be.
Yeah, so we have parcels on that side of the road, right? So it's, you know, that need to be addressed.
How many parcels are affected by this change?
So if it was this area, it's essentially what you see on this map.
You've probably got about 4 parcels that could be, you know, affected by it. You've got the parcel on the northeast corner of 58 Main Road, Doctor's Path.
Yeah.
There's another vacant lot here. Like Matt said, this property here is actually part of a larger, like 220-something acre parcel. And you've got the roughly half-acre piece that was, just so the board's aware, so there was a site plan application that was made by that property owner to develop this trade contractor storage building on that site. Went to the zoning board of appeals seeking a use variance. The board never rendered a decision. The applicant requested to withdraw the ZBA application. That application was withdrawn with prejudice. So he's not able to reapply for that use within 2 years. So now this code amendment would effectively make that a permitted use within that zoning district.
So is that where this code amendment's coming from, or is it coming from somewhere else? I'm just trying to understand.
We're trying to put something in here where people are gonna use the property. And that's the objective here. You know, we need property that's got use so we can get taxable buildings. And if it's just gonna sit there waiting for someone to build a house in any of those areas, I could see them building a house, you know, 30, 40 years ago, which probably those houses that are over there are that old, right? And today, good luck with somebody wanting to build a house on a main road. So I think what we need to do, we need to be comprehensive in our thinking about what is going to occupy these spaces. And, you know, when it was brought to me, I said, you know, this makes perfect sense, you know, because I lack the experience of knowing whether people want to build houses on main roads. I think the guy right across on 105 who just did all that renovation on that corner did a beautiful job. I don't know who's going to want to live there, because that house was probably 50 or 60 years old that they renovated.
Yeah, I think that's
Older than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of that was the idea of me laying out the other permitted uses. It's not just a house. There's a number of other uses that could be could occupy and, be used at this property. That just
We're making assumptions if it's trades, like that they're going to be in and out all day. I can't make those kind of assumptions because generally speaking, we could go back and forth, but trades go out and they're out for the day and then they come back, so.
They come in at different hours. You also have to be cognizant that there are existing residential uses there. So yes, I mean, while a small contractor trade shop may not in and of itself carry a sort of, significant trip generation, there are also considerations to, the fact that there are 3 or 4 residential uses right around there. Contractors coming in, starting their day at 5, 6 in the morning, opening garage doors, potential outdoor storage, trucks backing up, trucks backing in, noise to the existing residences that, like you said, have been there for 60, 70 plus years.
So what's your recommendation? What do we do, preserve the land?
I'm not saying, the land is held in private ownership right now. It's been held in private ownership probably for the last 20 years.
All those parcels?
Yes, every piece of property in there is held in private ownership.
Yeah, no, I understand for how long, and nothing has happened. So when nothing happens on a parcel, and maybe what we need to look at is the uses, and look at change the uses that somebody may want to use that property. Having uses that are not useful for people to come in and occupy, it kind of signals to me we may need to look at the uses and see what people may want to use it for, so that we start to get
I would say
some
people,
interest.
people are developing the zone as it's intended to. So, the 3 parcels, this was a recent subdivision that I actually reviewed on the corner of Forest Drive, and this is all zoned commercial residential campus, which is in this zone. And now there's 3 single-family houses there. So people are developing. This was vacant for a very long time, but someone has come in and developed it pursuant to the zoning.
The 61 Main Road, the self-storage unit did go before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
For a special.
If there is criteria, and if someone is able to meet the use variance to demonstrate that they are unable to make a reasonable return on the property with the permitted uses, there is an administrative recourse for that. In this case, the applicant failed to do so and withdrew the application for the ZBA.
Yeah, what's interesting about that storage, I think about those people that own those houses now, in their backyards have this huge storage
So
facility.
that was it was a special exception, and it was a change from one non-conforming use to another, and the applicant did demonstrate the need before the zoning board, and it was granted. There's buffering requirements. I actually reviewed the self-storage building as well after they got relief from the zoning board, so there's actually a buffer that goes around the whole thing. It's going to be planted, there's a fence. Obviously, yes, we're cognizant of neighbors, but as Greg said, there's administrative relief if you would like to do something else. I'd like to think there's a lot of uses already in this zone that are viable. I'm not saying that we can't consider anything, but I do have concerns about retail, which is not permitted in this zone, in terms of not necessarily trips, but just the reality of this stretch of road, and also special trade, just because the impacts that go on with those uses.
We got retail ice cream, and I'm not looking, I'm throwing this out on the table.
Yep.
It's pre-existing, but what's it doing to the traffic,
There used to be a car dealership over there. There was a gas station.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to look at the uses. I want to see the land being used. And maybe we don't have enough uses. If it was a place of worship, imagine the traffic then, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's a permitted use. So is that a good permitted use? Maybe we need to look at that. In fact, right next to the ice cream place, there used to be a place of worship.
This is a unique stretch of road.
Agreed.
With a sort of mixed bag of uses. I, myself, just as a planner, I keep coming back to the fact that this is a small residential enclave in a quasi-commercial area.
I agree.
So you have to be cognizant of that. So, if someone could build a single-family residence, which is a permitted use, on a half-acre piece of property, which is located within a small residential enclave, I don't think that's necessarily a detriment.
But I don't think it's a detriment if you're willing to build on a main road. And the fact that the property, I don't see anybody looking, how many residential houses do you see in an area like that somebody's willing to buy a piece of property and build a house on a main road?
This is residential, this is
How
residential.
old are they?
I mean, the house right on Forest Drive
Right,
here,
it's
this is a
residential.
single, yes, it does front on Forest Drive, but it is directly adjacent to Main Road. I mean,
Right.
we see, we see applications for new
Off the
single-family,
main road.
we see new applications for single-family residential units along Peconic Bay Boulevard, which may not have the same level of traffic as Main Road, but is still a pretty heavily trafficked
But
thoroughfare.
again, Forest Drive is off the main road.
Yeah, but this says contractor, this is residential right here. This is a house.
I mean, are you looking for us to push this through? I think.
Yeah, I'm looking,
See that, man?
what is there to lose if somebody's going to occupy this? Give me
Because there's 3 other parcels that would also be affected by it, and you don't know what would happen
Right,
in the future with those
I'm not ready to-
properties.
Personally, I'm not ready to move forward with this. I think that I haven't had a lot of time to look at this. I would want it to go back through our code revision. I mean, we have that committee. I know we are the deciding factor, but we also have other committees look at it. It's just
These
my-
people are on code revision, and they're on code revision. There's no reason not to talk this out now.
Oh, I think we can
And I
talk
mean,
to that, but-
I think we need to give a hard look at the permitted uses, places of worship, museums or art galleries, schools. You're talking about the impacts, but look at the permitted use against what those impacts would be, and maybe we need to look at these parcels on this and see what would work there.
I would ask the town board to go and review the minutes and review that ZBA meeting where the applicant was really tasked with making the case for that use variance. It's absolutely relevant to this discussion. I would implore the board to go take a look at I can provide them for you. I can email
I would
those minutes.
appreciate that, Greg.
When a property owner has a standard to meet when making an application, I don't think it's necessarily then the responsibility of the town board to go and change the code in order to allow that use to then proceed.
You know what?
I'll provide those minutes to the
No,
board.
I would appreciate that, but I do take responsibility for anything and everything that happens in this town. But I would look at that, but what I'd like to look at, to all the points that you guys have made, which are valid points, to look at the permitted uses, right? To take a hard look at that, and, because some of these don't work to what you're saying at all, and maybe we need to look at this.
If there's concerns in this stretch, that's one thing. I mean, there's other places that are zoned CRC as well.
Understood?
It's never recommended to put such a narrow window on where something is allowed or where it's not allowed in terms of like this one stretch, because what's really different about this one stretch of CRC than anywhere else? And I have the guidance from the state, and I'll read from it. The question of whether rezoning constitutes spot zoning should be answered by determining whether the rezoning was done to benefit individual owners rather than pursuant to a comprehensive plan for the general welfare
Understood.
of the community.
The one thing that is in CRC, that I think when we change CRC, it's daycare. We have daycare in CRC, but it's not listed
We
here.
haven't added, so it was a recommendation to add daycare as a use within, or an accessory use, I think, as part of the comp plan. I actually have that in here. That was one of the recommended changes. Yes, childcare facilities is discussed within community facilities chapter. This is coming right for the comp plan. Access to affordable childcare remains an issue. The town should review the zoning code for opportunities to reduce barriers to childcare. One option is to allow daycare as a home occupation. This code could be clarified to ensure that daycares are permitted accessory use to religious facilities. Lastly, there are several residential districts such as CRC, RLC, and PRC which should include childcare facilities as a permitted use.
Childcare facilities, that comes from the state of where they're
It
able to be.
depends on the size. So it depends on the size. There's several thresholds for when it's an at-home daycare or not, number of children that are there. If it's over a certain number, it is reviewed locally, but if it's under a certain number, it's permitted by OCFS, Office of Children and Family Services.
And those kinds of daycares match the kind of zoning you already have, out of someone's home or out of a church
Out of
or
a single family, right, yeah, I mean, there's family daycare, there's group family daycare, like Matt said, there's things that are regulated by the state that are essentially considered accessory to a single family residence.
Yes.
Or churches.
Yeah,
Little
this
churches.
is the worship, yeah. Very key.
Do you know if daycares are allowed to operate 7 days a week?
If it's permitted by the state, I think it would be up to them, but I would say people work every day of the week, so they might need childcare on the weekend.
So if somebody wanted to open up a school in one of those locations, not,
It would have to go, yeah, it would have to go through site plan. It would have to, obviously, for the size of the property, they could improve it based on the dimensional regulations. And it would,
do you think the traffic issues would be with a school?
I think there would be traffic issues with the school as well. And that's why I said it's not just about trip generation. It's also about
No, I understand.
other things too. Yeah.
Trying to work with you, not, I'm just throwing this out there.
Understood, yeah.
So
First
do you
time
want-
seeing it.
Do you want to go back and work on this more? What do you want to, what are you asking
I'd
for?
like to see the minutes from the
that's what
ZBA.
Which they,
See the minutes?
they're all online. I can get you, we
Yeah,
can
we'll email them.
email you the
Appreciate it.
dates.
Thank you. Thank you very
Gentlemen,
much.
Thanks for coming. Sorry.
Just be curious, the size of the parcels that are affected. I just want to get, you could just send it to me or something. I
Yeah.
just want to get it's hard to visualize when you look at the All-Star, you're like, that's huge.
Correct.
But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I don't know,
No,
I know the person, I'm there all the time, but how big are these parcels that
So
we're talking
this,
about?
I believe this
I'll
piece.
tell you right now. So the
They'll start down
property on,
here.
the property on the northeast corner of this
This here?
intersection, just shy of an acre.
So that's just about 1 acre. Okay.
The property on the south side down here, about 2.5 acres. This piece here, which again is part of the larger, yeah, that's part of about a 225 acre tract, which is split zoned CRC.
Well, that's the one that goes down, I know.
The parcel in question, this one, that's about a 1/2 acre.
It's pretty much all the.
Yeah.
So at least by kind of scaling this off, if that's what's
There's a
1
mix-
acre,
it's
gives me
really
an
a-
idea of what everything is affected over here.
It's a mixed bag of sizes in terms of, what's here and how they exist.
I know, when it was brought to my attention, that was my concern. I'm not concerned about the one that's the really large piece, because that can exit off to, Doctor's Path, right? But the other little ones is what,
Yeah,
I think we
this
need
is,
to
this is
look at.
super hard to develop anyway, but just because of the location, it's trying to get out of here. I don't know where.
That's where the gas station was.
Helicopter.
Really?
yeah.
The corner you're talking about? It's farmer's market, no?
No, that's up here.
That's on the southwest corner of 105 on Main Road.
Yeah, I'm pointing to it,
Oh. The western end here.
Okay.
Well, if you guys could send us that, thank you so much for answering those questions.
Thanks a lot.
Discussion.
Thanks for coming down on short notice.
There's maps here if everybody wants them at the end. So in just a second. Yeah, they're available right here.
This one says,
You weren't provided before the discussion as required by the open meeting law unless there's some other excuse that I don't know about.
there you go.
Like, wasn't scheduled to be discussed, maybe. I don't know. Where'd this come from, by the way? You guys or them?
The
The map? Like, is it generated by the town board or the planning department? That wasn't clear to me.
Yeah.
Sorry?
from Bob.
From Bob, okay. Thank you.
I didn't.
This is just the uses that are there now.
Okay, so without any further interruption, we'll do our first and second to enter into executive session to discuss the following matters surrounding contractual agreement between the town of Riverhead and Long Island Housing Authority with Councilman KERN, and matters surrounding contractual agreement between the town of Riverhead and J. Petroselli Contracting with Councilor Perdenti, Don Thomas, and Matt Charters. So can I have a first and second to go into executive session?
Only if you let me correct the first one, it's Kern and Prudenti.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, yeah.
KERN and Perdenti on the first one.
Yeah.
Denise,
I did, I said so moved.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
See you next week.